Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. In this episode of the podcast, we're actually going to be full. We are actually full house again, finally. As always, I am Ted from the iTunes Fanboy, conjoined by.
I'm Tabby Cat.
My name is DeWolf.
And so let's just get into our first topic since we're on limited time for reasons that we probably won't need to discuss on the podcast. The first
we're starting it later than we usually. That's pretty much all there is.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, and
2 hours.
As I discovered, it was originally supposed to be me and Tabby, but Alpha joined. And I wasn't even sure if Tabby was going to make it, but then Alpha said he could make it, so we're now finally.
It turns out I had time.
I understand the feeling. All right, so the first topic is that as a big shock to everybody, iPadOS 17 is potentially dropping support for the iPad Pro 9.7 inches, the first iPad Pro, and the 5th generation iPad. What a shock to everybody.
Oh yeah, they're old devices. Those devices came out, 7 years ago going on? I know the
iPad
5th
5th
iPad
generation
was
came
the
out.
first. That was the first one that came out as the iPad name after the iPad 4. Right, so that was 2017. The 9.7 was the April 2016 event, and then the 12.9 was the September 2015 event, apparently.
Yeah, I thought the iPad Pro 2015 released in October 2015, and that the iPad.
Yeah, I thought that, right? But then I looked.
Oh no, it was September. You're right. And then I thought
apparently
it was March for the iPad Pro 9.7 inches, since I remember my mom telling me after I was coming home from school from first grade. Yes, that's how old the iPad is.
Oh,
that
yeah,
told me
it
that
was
there was
March.
that and the new iPhone SE. I didn't pay much attention at the time, but since I wasn't really in an Apple phase at that point.
Yeah, it was March. I remember. Remember, that was the first Apple event I ever watched live.
That's cool. Yeah, but just goes to show you how. And I remember back when I was on spring break in the middle of second grade when I saw the iPad 5th generation release, and at the time, because I didn't know a lot about money and tech specs and whatnot, I was so confused about it.
Yeah.
Though, in case you guys are wondering why I haven't done an updated iPad Pro 9.7 inches in 2023 video yet, the reason why is not because I don't want to do a sequel to that. I do want to do a sequel to that, but I have to wait until after WWDC, so that way I can say for sure whether it's going to get supported or not. For iPadOS 17,
That would be unfortunate if it didn't get it.
It would. It honestly would not be. It's so old.
No, here's the reason why. Here's the reason why it would be unfortunate if it didn't get it. Hey, Tabby, how you enjoying iOS 16?
Oh, iOS 16 sucks. See, I hope they drop like everything on iOS 16, and then they just make iOS 17 like good for the good devices. Because I feel like Apple's making iOS 16 so bad because it's got to run on like iPhone 7s, like
or 8.
I guess the 8. Yeah, but like we're seriously still running iOS 16 on a device that is on the A9 platform. That came out in 2015. That is almost a decade ago.
That's not. I'm sorry, Apple. That's just. I know that's.
iPads.
That's coming up on 8 years ago. And we've got to.
Yeah.
So my 14 Pro can't be as good as it could be because we're still dealing with software features that have to work with the crap from, last decade. Literally, the 2010s. The dead middle of the 2010s.
That was back when buns were popular.
That was like 2 presidents ago.
That was when Obama was president.
Yeah.
I suppose, yeah. Oh, jeez.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
A9 was very good in its day.
But
then
it's
the next
terrible
year,
now.
See, the next year after A9 came out, they released the A10 Fusion chips, right? Where pretty much they had efficiency cores. So those chips are much more capable because the battery life on A10 platforms is much longer than A9 because they have the efficiency cores and the performance cores. I believe they're separate.
That's why Apple bothered to put the A10 chip in new devices new as 2019 with the iPad 7th generation and the iPod Touch 7, even though that didn't get quite the support that we wanted it to. Though we should not have been surprised. It ran like crap.
Well, the iPod Touch 7 was a useless device.
Yeah,
the iPod Touch as a
it should have
whole is
died off a long time
useless.
ago.
I don't even think it should have ever released to begin with, since I get it had a point like to bring people into iOS who are still used to their phones.
Oh no, because people didn't buy that. People bought the iPhone SE, right? Because that was quicker. Because Apple
I'm talking
downclocked the A10s a lot.
Like way when the first generation iPod Touch was new.
Oh yeah, those made sense because kids that didn't have a cell plan, but now there's 6-year-olds that have a cell plan.
Yeah.
And honestly, if they're responsible for it, okay, give it to them. But if not, don't.
And I mean, you can still buy kids phones without cell phone plans.
Yeah.
Or just hand them down your old phone, like what my mom did for quite a while until I bought my 14 Pro.
That was honestly really the best deal you could get on iOS devices.
What was?
Just buying an older iPhone or just handing your kid your old iPhone when you upgrade. That's really the best deal.
Back in March of 2020, I was handing down my mom's, or let me show you guys it. Let me go find it under this pile of phones. This iPhone 8 Plus right here was handed down to me by my mom back in March 2020. And it already had way better hardware, a far better camera, a far better screen, a far better everything than the iPod Touch 7. For only like $150 more bucks at the time. And now there's like maybe a $20. No, actually the iPhone 8 Plus is now cheaper than the iPod Touch 7.
I think that one device I think that is useless in the Apple lineup, I guess, the Apple roster is the SE3 because get this, okay? The XR is the most comparable device to the SE3 because they're both LCDs. They both have single cameras. They both have the aluminum design. But the XR is $200 cheaper than the SE3. And I was going to make a video on this, then Teddy made a video on it, so I was just like, okay, I'm just going to do something else. But the XR, let's see how many upgrades the XR has. No home button, better front camera, better rear camera, Face ID, larger display, better quality display. Let's see.
Battery?
Oh yeah, battery life on the XR was apparently one of the best out of all the iPhones, but from my own experience, the XR in A12 took a hit on 16.4. But let's see, there's too much to count. Okay, the cameras on the XR, so much better.
That's why people are keeping their XRs for way too long.
I don't fault people for wanting to. I think they're amazing.
I don't recommend people buy used
obsolete
phones
now, but we can disagree.
I don't recommend people buy used phones, right? But I say, if someone's gonna buy an SE, just buy a XR. It's such a stupid phone to sell the SE. The home button sucks. The home button sucks. I hope that we can all agree the home button sucks. Okay. Gestures.
Would we all agree that Touch ID is inferior to Face ID?
Yeah, exactly. Because Face ID, see, I used the S23 Ultra for a week, right? Because I had to get my 14 Pro replaced because I smashed it. And now I have the 14 Pro. Face ID is so much better. The always-on display works so much better. It is so much easier to type. The vibration motor is so much better. The display itself on the S23 Ultra is great, but the 14 Pro's display size is better. Right? The only thing that I can give the S23 Ultra is that multitasking was pretty good on that device, right? But it was not a bad phone. The cameras were amazing, right? But I'd rather use an iPhone. And I feel like now that we're at this place where flagship iPhones are at the same level as flagship Androids, right?
For the
it's
most part,
just
yeah, I
like-
agree.
Yeah, it's just like Android has a lot of flaws for me. I know a lot of other people like Android. You know, it's like, okay, cool. I'm not going to tell someone what they can and can't like or use. Right. But what I will say is that the iPhone SE, being at its current price, competing against the Galaxy A series, and I'm not going to mention this, but the Pixel 4 is like $100, and every part of that thing is better than the SE3 except for the processor. Pretty sure it's got like the same amount of RAM even. It's just, why does Apple still sell the home button design in that 4.7-inch screen that's just not optimized for iOS 16? And it's so problematic. That's my thoughts on the SE3.
Yeah, this is
what
what-
about you guys? What do you
Again,
think about
I
the
did,
SE3?
and this is, I actually did this comparison to my dad where I, without telling him what phone models they were at first, I held up my SE3 and my iPhone X 10 right beside each other. And I asked him which phone looked better to him. Guess which phone he responded. He thought looked better.
I'm guessing
iPhone 10, easily.
gotta be the 10.
Yep. He actually thought the 10 was better than the SE3. And
Oh, and it is
the
in,
10
like,
is
90%
such an
of
outdated
circumstances.
phone. The 10 is such an outdated phone.
I mean, yeah, but still, better display, better cameras,
Yeah, that's
longer
exactly
battery.
that's exactly the point.
Crank
The
it up to
10 is-
10S to get an even better looking one.
You know, like, I
Yeah.
used 11 Pro Max for a while, right?
Yeah.
The 11 Pro Max, in my opinion, was the last good Max phone, because I don't like the squared edges with the bigger display at all. It just
Oh, I
it's
hate
so
the
bad.
squared edges. I love the
I
bigger
don't mind
display,
them.
but I hate the squared edges.
See, I don't mind them on the smaller phone, but when I had the 13 Pro Max, they dug into my hand. The phone was way too heavy. You know, it was just impossible for me to use. And today it's been 1 year since I got that 13 Pro Max, actually. Apparently, according to my Instagram. Yeah, but I think the 11 Pro Max was a really solid device. Although, you know, the phone's performance did take a little bit of a hit on iOS 16, I'd say.
Yeah. There's only two things that I just didn't like about the 11 Pro Max. Otherwise, I would have bought it. Doesn't matter how many ways people try to get me to look at it. I'm sorry. The camera bump design that they've picked and are still using to this day, it sucks. I hate it so much. It's ugly. It's hideous.
It looks so hideous, but yet looks so much better compared to the iPhone 14 Pro. And it looks tiny compared to my 14 Pro, which is just so stupid.
So yeah, that's one thing I dislike about the 11 Pro series. And then the other thing was the removal of 3D Touch.
I think that 3D Touch got a hardcore nerf on iOS 13 anyway.
I do feel that, yes, it has gotten nerfed, but there are some areas where, I'm sorry, 3D Touch is still better. Like the flashlight button on the lock screen.
Oh my gosh, yes. Now that I have a 10...
It
I
actually
can
still
safely
feels
say-
like a button.
Now that I have a 10,
And-
I can safely say that 3D Touch is so much better.
I used a 10 for a month 2 years ago, and I couldn't get into it really. And I used to really like 3D Touch on like iOS 9, 10, 11, even 12, even though I was an Android user in 2019, so 12 didn't matter to me, but it just was like, for the most part, I think that Apple made a good decision by getting rid of it in the long run, even though right now it might not make sense, because I feel like if they kept 3D Touch, it would have had that extra layer on the screen to pose issues, because, I don't know, I fix phones a lot, right? Pretty sure you guys know that.
Yeah.
But anything or anything post 3D Touch is a lot more durable, for whatever reason. And I like to think that it's because there's less layers and less stuff to go wrong, but I don't know. It might just be other stuff, because the 11 Pro...
Can I ask what you think is more durable? What bit about it is more durable? Can I ask?
I think that since there's an extra layer of failure with 3D Touch, I think that there's like one more layer to get dislodged, and then once it gets dislodged or the plastic inside gets damaged, it could potentially damage the other layers of the screen. That's how I think of it. I don't remember exactly how they did 3D Touch, but that's my theory. Just from like, iPhone 8s, in my experience, are way less durable than, SE3s, I guess, because I don't think the SE3 has 3D touch.
No, it doesn't.
Well, technically, the way the home button works, that's technically the same technology as 3D touch, I would think.
Yeah, but the home button is a separate part. But, it's like, the 10s were very prone to, like, display failures. Same with the 10S. Those all had, it was like very little drops were causing these lines, but the 11 Pro doesn't have that, and that's just, that's how I saw it, and I think that Elias actually thinks the same way, but he fixes a lot more phones, because I don't fix all that many phones anymore. I just think that the profit's not there anymore, so I just kind of stopped fixing them for the most part. But
Alright, well, our next topic is that iOS 17 is going to bring many control center changes.
I think that's good.
I have no idea what that means, but it won't matter since I'm not going to be
I think they're
updating
gonna-
iOS 17.
I think they're going to change up the control center in general.
I really,
Wonder how they would do it.
One thing I do hope is that they make it so. One thing that annoys me about iOS ever since iOS 11, I've always hated how you have to swipe down for both the control center and the notification center on non-home button iPhones. And I want them to bring it back so that way you swipe up from the bottom and I kind of like the one Apple to bring sort of a more retro type of control center, like on iOS
It doesn't
7.
really bother me, but
Or
I
on
think that the
iOS
control
10.
center just needs more toggles, because I think that half the toggles that I have are kind of useless.
Yeah,
Yeah.
most of the toggles on the control center for me I don't even use. I maybe use the brightness one and maybe the volume one once in a while, though even then most of the time on my devices I usually just use the volume buttons.
If Apple gets rid of the, like, home controls, like the lighting controls in the control center, then I'm switching to Android.
Oh,
No, I'm just playing, but yeah, that will
Personally,
make me mad
I'd
if
rather
they do
put
that.
it all in. Personally, I'd rather put all the home controls into like a separate card, like how they have your Wi-Fi, Bluetooth, the wireless controls in one card. Then you got your media and the card next to it, brightness and volume, and yeah, I think
So,
it would
one
be
thing
better
that
if they
annoys me-
integrated all the home controls into one card.
Yeah, but one
That
thing
would
that
be
does
good.
annoy me, because they kind of do that, but one thing that annoys me is there's like 4 home controls there's 6 actually, but the bottom 4 are lighting. They don't let me choose which ones to use. They just choose
that's
at random.
annoying.
Yeah, that seems kind
Yeah.
of dumb. Look, personally, the swipe down thing from the top right ear, as I like to call it, personally, I just like it. I feel like you're taking much more advantage of this limited space you have on a small device.
Yeah, I think I don't have.
I
an
just
issue
like
with
swiping
any of that.
down. I just think it's more uniform and a lot less confusing to swipe up down for notification center, which should be an actual notification center, and again instead of the lock screen. Apple.
Here's how I think of it. So I'll hold mine up. There are 2 different. This is one of the reasons why I actually really like the notches implementation, even when it was first introduced on the iPhone 10. That is the divider between notification center and control center. I found it intuitive. I really liked it.
It's not hard to understand, I will say. It's not that big of a deal, but and again, on the dynamic island is a little more complex. Or not again, but on the fourth dynamic island does make it a little more complex. Though again, just doesn't give as much of a clear dividing line, especially as the dynamic island is sinking. So
That's one of my most biggest complaints about how Apple's been handling the shrinking notch along with the dynamic island thing. Because when the 10 came out, our initial way how we learned, this is notifications and this is controls. Our initial way of learning it was, okay, you swipe from the left ear, you get notifications, and from the right, it's control center. But as the evidently, if you swipe from the middle, like if I were to swipe from the notch, you still get notifications. I really think Apple should have made like clear dividing line down the middle, so that way wherever on the right you swipe, it's control center instead of just barely just to the very right of the display instead of. You get what I'm saying, right?
Yeah, that's why Apple's probably going to have to change that at some point, especially as the dynamic island is sinking, though. Yeah, though, you know what Apple isn't going to be changing on the iPhone 15 Pro and 15 Pro Max?
I just heard about this. It's the solid state buttons.
Yep, they're not going to be happening until the iPhone 16 series due to technological limitations.
That's good.
I hope Apple never does this I hope Apple at least includes a reset button so that way if there's any problems or if you need to boot up your phone, at least you have a physical button to hold down to do it, because the problem is that when there's no physical buttons, you can't boot up your phone, even though there were rumors for a super low power mode. That's still not helpful. Going to be very helpful 10 years down the line when Apple collectors want to boot up their old iPhone 15s to make it for a special.
One way to boot up our iPhones without touching the power buttons, plug it in.
Yeah, just.
I
plug
mean,
it in
still
to
just
hopefully
check,
USB-C.
and just to boot. Still just, it's just. You still need physical buttons in case your phone freezes, which on iOS 16, if it keeps going if iOS 17 continues going the direction of iOS 16, you might still want a physical button if it's going to freeze a lot.
Well, I guess their argument for that would be the typical iPhone experience is it just works. It runs smoothly, despite that every now and then your display doesn't turn on. Or you have some weird AirPods connected notification that gets stuck on the screen.
I mean, I'd assume what they would do is they would just put the whole power buttons kind of on a different grid, if that makes sense, to be simple.
Yeah.
Have a separate, I guess, smaller OS to control that. And I guess a different power, I don't know.
That's what Apple was planning on doing, but either way, yeah, I'm pretty stoked. Either way, we're not going to have to worry about this for the 15 series. Though there's something else that the 15 series is going to be removing in more countries this year.
Hold on, I'm getting a call. You guys can go on.
Alright.
It's got to be the SIM tray.
Yep. France for sure is going to be removing it.
Some will be annoyed. I personally won't.
It depends on how the cell system... Again, I'm not in France, so I can't say it, but I actually prefer eSIM to old-fashioned SIM.
To me, it doesn't really matter whether it's sure, physical SIM, it's easy. Pop it out, put it into a new phone, other than somebody else can pop it out and put it in their phone and such as that. So yeah, there's the security benefits, but I mean, depending on the app experience, I hear that T-Mobile has not exactly been smooth about this. I wouldn't know because I don't use T-Mobile because there's 0 T-Mobile towers up here. I'm not on eSIM at the moment because if I did that, I don't think AT&T knows about this yet, but I think because I put my SIM card back in my XS Max here, I think I've violated the contract and now I got to pay full price for the 13 Pro Max, which I'm totally fine with, to be honest.
That's okay.
Yeah, so...
Tabby will find that okay, too.
So yeah, because of that... I heard people who have done the SIM swap with AT&T at least. It's been fairly smooth and such, though some of the people at AT&T themselves don't exactly know how to do it. As long as you know what you're doing, it's fairly straightforward. But if T-Mobile or if whoever self-provider doesn't do it correctly, then yeah, I can see why it can be a frustration and such.
Yeah, though.
But
When I was getting my iPhone 14 Pros, I bought from the AT&T store because it was physical. They had already set up my SIM cards. That way, all I had to do was just worry about transferring data when I got my 14 Pro, and memorizing my phone number.
who memorizes those nowadays?
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
All right. Anywho, what were we talking about?
We were talking
SIM
about
cards.
how the iPhone 15 is going to be removing the SIM card tray in more countries. And France is for sure confirmed to be saying goodbye to the physical SIM card on the iPhone.
Yeah. Hey, Tavi, how's your experience with eSIM?
I have had to deal with eSIM a few times. On my 13 mini, I had to go to the store. That was in 2021, very late 2021 and early 2022, right? And it was annoying because pretty much how I'll explain it is they made me get like the account owner that made the account, right? So I wasn't able to just go in there and get my SIM transferred. And then I tried transferring eSIM online. They transferred my number to another line to my number, and I had to figure that out. It was 2 a.m. when I dealt with this. I was on a 6-hour phone call with T-Mobile.
Oh gosh.
They kept calling me funny names. The representative kept calling me funny names. Then I hung up on that one, and I got on a call with a guy who knew what he was talking about, and he figured out, what was going on. Not only did he revert the previous line, right, he fixed that, because there was one line that I had to figure out how to fix within the next few hours, and I fixed that, and this dude even got my own number onto an eSIM for a Galaxy S21, which was mine. So not only did all of the issues with them transferring numbers work, but they also got my own number to work, which that previous idiot that kept calling me funny names couldn't figure out how to do. And then after that, I left them a review, right? And I think they actually took that, because after that, I had no issue when my 13 Pro Max, I had to switch that to regular SIM. And I was able to get a SIM card from T-Mobile, right, be out within like 5 minutes, put that in, the XS Max, and then they didn't even want me to switch to eSIM, even though that phone supported it. Then I went from that to S22. That worked fine, right? And then I went in September to eSIM on my 14 Pro. And last week I had to transfer it to the 11 Pro Max. Of course I wasn't able to because the phone didn't turn on. So I used T-Mobile's text support, right? And they got it figured out within 20 minutes. And also I was actually activating eSIM on my iPad on Christmas Eve, because I got my iPad on Christmas Eve, and no stores were open because I got that thing last minute because I wanted an iPad before Christmas. Everything sold out. And I was able to activate it that night within 5 minutes on eSIM. That was great. Also had another one that they kind of messed up with eSIM, but I ended up getting that to work. And it was pretty good. That's with T-Mobile though. I think that oh, and another thing, when I was switching the eSIM from my 11 Pro Max to my new 14 Pro a few days ago, it was flawless. It took me 3 minutes.
Wow.
Didn't even have to contact them. It was in the iPhone setup. Absolutely flawless, no issues. Same with when I switch to eSIM, all the times. They have such a seamless, way to switch that when I switched to the 14 Pro originally, it was pretty much instant. There's a little bit of loading, but it got from my 13 mini, which was a physical SIM, not an eSIM, to eSIM in like 2 minutes, and it was great.
That's pretty cool. Again, this shows you how the SIM card removal is like the headphone jack removal.
After people get over, not being able to switch their SIM card, it won't be that big of an issue in the long run.
And most people don't even care to begin with, so...
Yeah, for the most part, when it comes to dealing with SIM cards and phone numbers, that's not their problem. That's the carrier's problem.
Yeah, and one thing about the headphone jack removal. A good portion of my devices that I've gotten over the years have never even had the headphone jack plugged in once. I can tell because the headphone jack is dusty inside, and it's completely white inside on the white phones, in the gold, whatever, those.
Oh, yeah.
And never used. Because most people maybe plugged it into, like, CarPlay and never used the headphone jack, or just always use Bluetooth, because I've been using Bluetooth for a while,
I wish I had CarPlay so much.
Oh, it's amazing.
My dad's new car does have
Android
CarPlay,
Auto.
though I need to get set up sometime.
Way better than Android Auto.
Mm-hmm. I just did a test.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a
I
funny
saw that.
coincidence.
Yeah, I just did that test with my grandpa a week ago or so. And that was so funny to watch both Siri and Google Assistant fail the exact same challenge in the exact same way.
Yeah. My 11 Pro Max, since he was a bit older, had some issues with CarPlay, though. That pissed me off.
Again,
I've discovered that a lot of GM's infotainment systems really struggle to switch between CarPlay and Android Auto.
Don't believe I've ever been in a GM car.
I'm
Except
in
for, like, auto
tons of them.
shows.
Neither have I.
I own a GM product and I absolutely hate it! Ugh. I have to replace the bearings in that thing again.
Well, I'm so surprised.
I'm not. Then again, I think everyone else on the street's gonna have to do it because our road is absolute garbage. Like, someone's road is bad if you have to drive on the shoulder.
Yeah.
Ooh. That's it's bad if you have to break the law.
Yeah, I think I'm surprised it didn't pop a tire on Thursday, but a new pothole had formed and it was so deep, I hit it at 30 miles an hour and I swore I popped my tires. I hate living here. I hate it so much. This is one of the gazillions of reasons why.
Luckily, here the roads are pretty good. Other than that, one time someone threw a baby stroller in the middle of the road.
I had an actual person walk right out in front of my car trying to get me to hit them.
Yeah, today I was going right, and there was this
That's
dude that
so
was just, he had
stupid.
no idea. There was this dude that just had no idea where he was going, so I stopped. I was like, what are you doing, dude? And the dude just, started going side of my car, then behind my car. I was like, dude, whatever. And then there's this one dude, I guess he was homeless. Just dude started coming up to me at a stoplight, just sitting down, right, and just begging, hands together and all. And I was like, whoa, what do you want, man?
What can you expect to get from teenagers? They barely have anything themselves unless they're spoiled rich from their parents.
Yeah, the dude was just doing it, and I was looking at the dude like, oh, man. Because I saw the dude doing it to other people, and it was annoying.
Yeah, the most annoying recent example as I have is that when my grandmother and I were coming up to a big four-way intersection, and there was a whole organization of people that were begging for donations. People aren't gonna, just FYI, if you want to actually get help, never go on the streets because people usually don't care if you're on the streets.
I'd say people would be more concerned for their safety, to be honest.
Oh, yeah.
Because, yeah, you may be harmless and you're just looking for money, and maybe offering to do a nice thing, but thing is, to everyone else, you're just a stranger, and you can't trust strangers.
especially in my area. There's all kinds of weird stuff happening here lately.
Well,
Yep.
the next topic that is a little bit weirder, but not really, is that Apple's rumored 27-inch 120 hertz display, or with ProMotion, is no longer being planned. So, to those of you looking forward to that, that's no longer going to be a thing.
That sucks. I would have considered maybe something like that if I were rich and famous one day, maybe for the music set or something, because I am constantly scrolling between music timelines and such, but...
I have one vertical monitor and one horizontal monitor. Obviously, the vertical one's the worst one, the Dell.
Is it really a horizontal monitor that's just mounted sideways, or...?
Yeah, of course. It's just like a stand. It works, it's on the left, and it's okay. For $10 at a thrift store, it was not half bad, but...
Ooh.
That's a really good deal for a computer monitor.
Yeah, that's not bad, actually.
Oh yeah, one of the best monitors I've ever had was a Dell monitor. That thing was $7 at a thrift store near me. The thing was amazing. Great colors, great brightness. It was like a 25-inch panel. It's just, that thing was great.
What happened to it?
I have...
Had a power failure because of my power strip.
Oh.
I have to use a square monitor at work.
Oh,
Yeah.
how? I didn't
Is
even
it a
know
1-to-1
those
ratio?
existed.
Yeah,
More
square
vertical
monitors are a
monitors.
thing.
Oh yeah, I have one under my pool table in storage.
That's cool.
Got a pool table?
Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, it's a Dell monitor. It's really not all that good. I mean, the thing's been
Yeah.
thrown a million times whenever I'm putting it back down there after I'm done with whatever old computer I'm working with.
I've been secretly planning a secret update for the office for where I work, because we have, for the most part, they're okay, but they're only for our primary monitors. We have some like 20-inch 16 by 9 Asus. I don't even know if they're 1080p. I think they might be 720p monitors. They're cheap, but
I thought they were Samsungs.
they're still kind of small and such. Huh?
I thought they were Samsungs.
I'm talking about at the office where I work.
Oh.
Yeah, I got Samsung monitors here. So yeah, those are our primary displays, except for my boss. He has 2 of those Asus monitors, but me and the rest of the other employees, we have older Dell monitors that, well, they used to use, and the Dell monitor that's at my desk happens to be a square monitor. And I've been thinking secretly upgrading all of those monitors to the same ones that I use on my desk, because they're very affordable, but they are so nice to use.
That's not... Again, we don't know about... Well, you have used them for several months, so you probably won't have to worry about long-term reliability because they're super affordable, but... Actually, that's genius.
Yeah, there's 2 people especially. Well, actually, I'm one of the 2 people, but that's because I care about my screen real estate a lot more than everyone else. So I've been thinking updating the accountant's monitor, because actually everyone else has a dual monitor setup except her. She's got a single monitor setup. So I figured, all right, let's switch out that tiny 20-inch Asus monitor to a bigger 27-inch monitor. Help the accountant get her work done. And then I was going to swap the 2 monitors on my desk and potentially, I don't know, use those other 2 for something else somewhere else in the shop. But
Would they
That's
let
cool.
you do that? Just bring in your own stuff?
technically, my own laptop is my work computer.
The XPS or the MacBook?
The XPS, and before I got the XPS, I was using the MacBook for at least programming.
Oh, nice.
So, back when I used the MacBook for that, I had to use one of the old towers for the CAD work because unfortunately there's basically no CAD software that is optimized for engineering for Mac, unfortunately. I really wish SolidWorks would come to the Mac, but of course they won't bring SolidWorks to the Mac, so had to do it on a Windows 7 Dell PC, which, hey, it's Windows 7, so it's usable.
Yeah.
At least back then.
Yeah. No, it's still usable today. As long as you're not doing like internet browsing stuff.
That's the problem with me, at least, which is why I don't. That's one of the reasons why I don't do as many jailbreaks and downgrades now, is because even though is not only because I've already done all the ones I can, most of the ones I can, but also because most of them are optimized for Windows 7 best, and Windows 7 is getting harder and harder to use easily.
Yeah, for the most part, that Windows 7 tower I used to use is basically the only computer there that's running Windows 7. It's because there's a couple applications that are required to run on Windows 7. Like, they won't work on any other computer we have in the office. Like, what's one? Our label maker. Our label maker has computer software that does not work with 10 or any other software in the office. It has to run on Windows 7.
Why not just get a new label maker at that point? You can get really cheap ones at Office Depot and whatnot.
I don't know about you, but I think it'd be much wiser to spend more money on tooling than office supplies.
I'm just saying,
And the label maker still works.
I'm just saying, though, that might be more. Like, at this point, you have to use old software and make your label maker work. Just buy a new one.
The only reason why we use the label maker is just to mark up our stock.
They're like 40. There's cheap label makers that are like $40, and my mom even has a Bluetooth one that's a really nice brother model. It's like $65. They're not much.
Yeah, and you want to know what else costs $40? A lot of end mills.
What?
A lot of end mills cost $40. So it is much wiser for us to spend more money on our tooling than it is our label maker, especially when the only reason why we use the maker is just for labeling our stock.
What's
That's
an end
it.
mill?
It's like a drill, but it can cut on the side of. I'll just pull up a picture.
You can also buy an iPhone.
I'm talking machining turns.
You can also buy an iPhone 5S for $40 too.
Oh, you can get a 5S.
Not gonna
for
do
$10.
the office any good.
That's gonna be a stupid decision to buy a 5S, but that thing, you can buy a 5S for $10 any day of the week.
Yeah, I mean, well, you can't exactly, and you could probably buy a 6 for that much too.
You can probably buy a 7 for that much.
You can't actually buy a 7. It's actually pretty hard to buy an iPhone 7 for just $40. They're coming down now, but they're still like around $80.
Nope, that's a tap. All right. I don't know how well that's going to focus, but let me see.
Oh, those
There
are
we go.
cool.
That is an end mill. Looks kind of like a drill, but it's got a flat bottom, and you can cut on both the bottom and the sides of it.
Oh, maybe I'll have to show those to my dad since he might like those.
They're used in machining applications. They don't work well in like hand drills or something because hand drills are meant for drilling, not milling.
Oh. Okay, well, getting back on topic here, we have 3 news pieces regarding Apple's virtual reality headset. The first is that it's going to cost between $3,000 and $4,000. The second is that engineers don't think that should release, and that the third is that Apple's headset is delayed again by at least 1 month, and likely 2.
I really have no interest in the headset.
It's honestly
Price-wise, whether it's coming out,
like it's
application for how it's going to be used.
This thing is just literally like it's at its best benefit. It's just an external monitor. Really, it serves not really much of a purpose, and it's just stupid, and it's never gonna release, as Tabby said on Twitter.
Oh no, it's going to release eventually. It's just probably going to take a few more years, I'd say, because Apple perfects crap.
They do.
Sure, they could have released the iPhone 10 in 2015. Would it be good? No. It would still have a home button, but it would probably also have thinner bezels, and, you know, it would probably be running much inferior software. But instead, Apple took extra time to perfect that design, to perfect the gestures, to perfect how there's no need for a home button, right? Same with, like, you know, ProMotion. They perfected that. Always on display. They perfected that. Everything that Apple does, they take time into. M1.
Except for iOS 16 and iPadOS.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, but imagine if M1 was released in 2019. How bad it would have been to run Macs on just the iPhone, you know, A12 processor.
Yeah, it
Instead-
probably wouldn't be as great as as it is today.
Actually,
Because people get this wrong. A12Z is nothing like A12. They're on the same platform, but A12Z, that is very performant.
Oh yeah,
A12,
big
A12
difference.
is not A12 is not all that performant anymore. You know? Because try putting, you know, an A12 or hell, even an A13 into a Mac Mini. It's not going to be good. It's going to cause issues, you know?
that is true.
Yeah.
Though, again, just saying that it's gonna probably just take a while for their stupid headset to work on, though. Our next topic is that Apple is still working on AirPower, apparently.
Okay.
Yep.
I thought the AirPower
So-
already came out as the MagSafe Duo.
It did, sort of, but apparently Apple's still working on it, even though I know how Apple should work on it. They should just use the current design, but put fans and apply a bigger design, more vents to just prevent all the overheating issues, and man, they could release AirPower just slightly thicker, but they could release it.
I'm willing to bet they want to do this again because Tesla basically did what they couldn't.
That's true. Also, AirPower is just, it's such a technological marvel that it has to be released, and AirPower is already sort of done with. So I know Alpha at least watches Mr. Who's the Boss.
Oh yeah.
Did you watch his gadgets
I don't-
video back in April of 2021?
I can't recall that far back. I'm trying to look something up here.
On one of his, well, in that video, he featured a $600 wireless charger that basically did everything that AirPower was supposed to.
Oh, I think it was that one where there was some mechanical component that moved the wireless charging coil inside.
No, that wasn't quite it. I don't know what that is.
It was featured on both, I believe Mr. Who's Boss showed that off, as well as MKBHD.
Oh, MKBHD probably did, but I don't know. I don't think Mr. Who's the Boss showed that off, but
Oh my goodness, they're still not sold out yet.
what's not sold out?
The Tesla wireless charging platform for $300.
I wonder why. Is it maybe because it's $300?
How much did AirPower cost during the very short time it was released?
It was never released, but how much was?
Some people got their hands on it.
There were
Bunch of
prototypes. Yeah,
That's
that
some
was,
people had gotten their hands on it back when it was just before it was canceled. Like, what did everything Apple Pro have then?
a con. Okay, it's gonna.
Eh.
They had a
It's
lot
gonna
of fake
supposedly
AirPower that
be
didn't
around. It
really
was supposedly
have-
gonna be about $250, or maybe between $150 to $180. She's still cheaper.
So then, yeah. Well, I'm sure the Tesla fans wouldn't mind paying the extra $50 for the Tesla version, but
All right. Well, but though there was no definicy on the cost, though the cost is not definite. Though our last topic, which again is being rushed because we have to wrap up recording soon, is on why I left Instagram.
what took you so long?
Actually, it's that Instagram has just gotten worse. Like, last year it wasn't that bad, and in 2020, when I joined Instagram, it was one of the best social platforms that I ever used.
I could just never join it because of who owns it.
Yeah, that's part of the reason why I left. Though, other than not wanting to be associated with the Zuck anymore, I also left Instagram because I was just getting fed up with it, with its irrelevant content that just matches the same toxicity as TikTok, which a lot of you guys know I despise. And it was just also...
Oh, you're not the only one who despises it.
I know you guys do too, but I was all mainly talking to viewers on that one. And also just... In general, Instagram is just seemingly getting less and less relevant. Like, I don't see people on Instagram as much. Well, now here, and Instagram is also not really as relevant in the tech community anymore as it once was.
I think that all the people in the Twitter tech community are more of just, don't know how to put this, but a lot of idiots. There's a lot of idiots there. There's a lot of meme lords in there, actually, and that's pretty annoying.
Yeah, that's why I'm still not entirely too fond of the Twitter tech community, though. I mostly avoid it and just you know, follow my friends that I know from YouTube and what, or know from YouTube.
Well, truth is, there's toxicity on basically every platform, and from what I've discovered, it doesn't matter which one you go to, it's basically everywhere.
Yeah, it's just that
I've just gotten lucky with, when it comes to getting the tweets that I see on Twitter, there's not really that many that I have a problem with.
Also, a good thing is that
I just also think it's way harder to get a following on Twitter. I've got like 40 followers after 2 years, and I used to have like 300-400. I had 2,000 followers at one point. They kept banning me for stupid reasons, so I was just like, okay.
Twitter is admittedly hard to get followers on, I will say, but on Instagram...
Personally, I don't care about followers on Twitter because unlike YouTube, I have nothing to gain from followers on Twitter.
Let me actually check on my Twitter. Hang on. Yeah, I still have 41 followers on Twitter, and I've had this account since November 2019. I think I have like now 70 followers on Instagram. Actually, let me check, as I still have my account up and everything. I think that's the alarm.
Yeah, for me, I view Twitter completely different than I do YouTube. I want my sub count up on YouTube because it's what gets me monetized and I can actually make money off of it, versus Twitter. No, it's kind of just the platform where I like to leak my own stuff or just talk about what I happen to be doing at the moment and
yeah,
want to get it out fast
63
instead of making a quick YouTube video.
I have 63 followers on Instagram right now. And
so yeah, when it comes to getting followers on Twitter, I genuinely don't care. You want to follow me on Twitter? Go for it. You don't want to? Fine by me. I genuinely do not care how many followers I have. I'd be perfectly fine if I had 0 today, to be honest.
I don't care if I have followers on Twitter either. But on Instagram, another problem I've been experiencing.
Posting stuff, right, and nobody even cares. You know, that's why I kind of hate Twitter. It's like, if I spend time on something, I'm gonna want it to, you know, I'm gonna want to be able to get it to people, you know.
Exactly.
But, yeah, nobody on Twitter sees my tweets. so I don't think it's worth it to.
I see him.
I see him.
Yeah, I see him all the time, actually.
So do I. Though I have it curated so that way I only see what my followers interact with, or just only what they tweet and what they like and what
I've
they
seen
retweet.
them just randomly pop up on the homepage, not latest tweets from followers I know.
That's cool.
Yeah. Unlike Tabby especially, I get a very healthy Twitter experience, which I feel really bad about, to be honest.
I'm really sorry to hear that about you, Tabby. And on Instagram, however, my problem, which I was trying to get to before we run out of time, is that on Instagram, I've been getting a lot of bot followers lately, and I don't know if Tabby's experienced the same thing or not, but it's gotten way worse than on Twitter.
Hey, editor Alpha DeWolf here. Yeah, we said some stuff, and you guys are not allowed to hear this stuff. And this right here is where the stuff used to be. Alright, now that stuff has been said, back to the show.
2 minutes.
Alright, so yeah. Tabby, have you been experiencing a bot problem lately on Instagram?
I don't know. I don't check how many people view my story, but the few times that I do, there's like some weird accounts, and it's just like stupid.
Yeah, I also have a lot of fake cat sharing accounts that like to claim to DM us for something special relating whenever I used cat hashtags in my Instagram posts. Though that's my final thoughts for this podcast, and now let's roll with the outro. As always, thank you all for watching another episode of the iTunes Fanboy Podcast. We apologize this episode was a little more rushed, but we did have limited time, as we said in the beginning. As always, I am Teddy Maggart from the iTunes Fanboy.
I'm Tabby Cat.
My name is Alpha DeWolf from the Random Alpha.
And we are all signing off for now, and we hope to see you next week or in the next 2 weeks or whenever our next episode is. As always, goodbye and peace out.
See ya.